Within a few hours after Justice Scalia died, McConnell pledged Republicans would refuse to do their jobs. They wouldn't meet with the nominee, they wouldn't hold hearings, and certainly have no vote. He charted a path of unprecedented obstruction without even discussing it with his fellow Republicans. Now Republicans are trying to hold open a Supreme Court seat so Donald Trump can nominate his preferred candidate. They're stopping a nominee so Trump can have a nominee. As Senator Graham said so well in the last day or two, this obstruction would change the rules and set an entirely new precedent for this body, the Senate. It's no wonder the Republicans are trying to distance themselves from this indefensible position that the Republican leader independently chose for his entire caucus. Kristen tried to trick me. She put 3 where 2 was, but I was able to pick it up. Reports say that Senator Jerry Moran seemed less enthusiastic about his leadership's marching orders, but he indicated he had no power to protect that position. Moran said he wants to do his duty, but that, quote, decision had already been made for him. It's been made by the Republican leader. Ron Johnson protested, quote, I'm not in charge of the process. One Republican senator asked, what's the point in falling on our swords? Even Chairman Grassley admitted that some members of the Judiciary Committee had some reluctance in signing away their responsibilities to the Republican leader as members of the Judiciary Committee. Kristen, what did you do to me?
He's lost.
What a dirty trick. These senators are right to question why the Republican leader wants to turn over the Senate's constitutional prerogatives to Donald Trump. It's wrong and without precedent, and really it's beneath the Senate. So I ask my Republican colleagues, take their constitutional duties seriously. Meet with the nominee, hold hearings, and then vote. In short, just do your job. Senator Durbin?
Could you leave those cards? I'd like to have a swing at them myself. Thank you very much, Senator Reid. Last week in the Senate Judiciary Committee, I took the website page from the Senate Judiciary Committee, which describes how you fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court. I read it to the committee and said, this is what you have published. The President nominates, and then we have advise and consent vote in the Senate. And I asked the Senate Judiciary Committee to give me unanimous consent that we would have a sense of the Judiciary Committee, that this is our policy. There was an objection from Senator Vitter. Objected to even approving the website page of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I suggested to the chairman that it's time for him to change that page, because he's not only refusing to follow the Constitution, he's refusing to follow his own words that he's published to the American people. What has happened to the Republican leadership in the Senate? You think back to people like Senator Richard Lugar, colleague of mine and many of us for years, and a person we respect. What does he have to say about the McConnell strategy of refusing to consider a presidential nominee for the Supreme Court? He says, I can understand their reluctance given the controversy that surrounds all the debate that has already occurred, but that is not sufficient reason to forego your duty. That's Senator Richard Lugar. I have similar quotes from Tommy Thompson, former Republican governor, member of the Bush cabinet, Alberto Gonzales, all saying the same things. And why? Because the Constitution is crystal clear in Article 2, Section 2, and Senator McConnell knows it. What they're doing is ignoring their responsibility under the Constitution and refusing to do their job. Now more than 2/3 of the American people have seen through this. They understand it's pure politics, and they are telling the Republicans, do your job.
Sure.
Well, the whispers around the Republican cloakroom are that the Republican leaders have made a huge mistake on the Supreme Court. Every day, the grumbling from rank-and-file Senate Republicans who are upset with the blind obstruction on the Supreme Court gets a little bit louder. 2 Republican senators have already said they won't go along. Senator Grassley said that his judiciary members who signed the letter, many signed reluctantly. Just yesterday, it was reported that Senator Moran was, quote, less than enthusiastic about the strategy. Republicans off Capitol Hill know it's a disaster as well. A former chief strategist for President Bush called McConnell's decision, quote, a tragic mistake. And the former governor of Wisconsin, Tommy Thompson, who Dick alluded to, said that refusing to hold hearings on the president's nominee is not an answer. That's his words. Now, all of these Republicans know that the American people simply want the Republicans to do your job. There's already dissension in the ranks that's creating more and more pressure on Republicans to relent, but the nominee, when he or she is named, is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. When the President nominates a brilliant legal mind with impeccable credentials to fill the Supreme Court vacancy, Republicans are going to come under enormous pressure to consider that person on the merits. It'll be a flesh and blood live person considered on the merits. It goes from an abstract argument where already two-thirds of the American people agree with us to a flesh and blood argument, an argument of human dignity, an argument of reality. So we'll soon be entering a new phase of this process. Republicans are going to be hard-pressed to continue their blind obstruction when there's an eminently qualified individual asking for the same courtesy that has been extended to every other Supreme Court nominee. Republicans are already struggling to justify their obstruction, but that job's about to get a whole lot tougher. When the President names his pick, we hope Republicans will take that time to re-evaluate their strategy, reassess their position, and do your job.
Senator Murray.
Well, today, Republicans in states across the country are deciding between their top two presidential candidates, Donald Trump, Ted Cruz. Here in the Senate, Republicans are taking lessons from both. They are channeling Donald Trump with their wild threats and bluster and promises to drag a nominee through the mud and make them feel like a, quote, piñata. And they are imitating their good friend and colleague, Ted Cruz, with their commitment to hobbling a branch of government until they can get their way. Now, Trump-Cruz politics may be what their extreme base is demanding these days, but we are here, once again, to stand with people across the country and deliver a simple message to Senate Republicans. Do your job and let us do ours. Unfortunately, this morning's Judiciary Committee hearing was a perfect example of what is driving Senate Republicans right now. While the Republicans on that committee say they won't take the time to do their most important actual job, they were happy to spend their time this morning pursuing their favorite hobby, attacking women's health care. And while they say they won't even hold a hearing on a Supreme Court nominee to fulfill their constitutional responsibilities, they were eager to hold a hearing to roll back women's constitutional rights. That's wrong. It needs to end. When President Obama sends us a nominee, Senate Republicans need to stop playing politics, stop pandering to the Tea Party, and fulfill their responsibility to their constituents, their country, and the Constitution, and do their job.
Questions?
Senator Reid, Senator McConnell spoke to Donald Trump this morning, and he said that he dissuaded him. He told him to encourage him to stop the or come out against the violence of these rallies. What is your reaction to that?
That's really big, isn't it? I mean, why didn't they start worrying about this when they helped create the problem we have with the man himself? Why do we have violence at these rallies? Could it be that what he's done, there are people beaten up in his rallies? So it's nice that it's nice that McConnell said something publicly, but should have started a long time ago.
Okay.
That's it?
Thank you.
Senator, if Trump is the nominee, and I guess we'll get a better sense of that tonight.
No, I won't support him.
Well,
Okay.
what sort of impact do you think it will have on your ability to take back control of the Senate? Will it enhance your ability to take back control of the Senate?
We're focused on the Senate. let others focus on the presidential for a while.
Senator Reid, do you have any reaction to the House Republicans' snafu on the budget and backing away from the numbers in the bipartisan budget agreement?
42 members of the Freedom Caucus said they won't support a budget unless they strip the American people, especially the middle class, of the gains that we were able to obtain last year. That's the Speaker's problem. I think that it's not a good sign that he's not telling them that they're going to do a budget with or without the Freedom Caucus. You can't have 42 members of a body of 435 members being run by 42 people. Simple as that. And the sooner that the Speaker realized that, better off we'll be. My friend John Boehner should have realized it years ago, but he kept pussyfooting around with these people within his caucus who were trying to run a caucus even though those numbers were small. Looks like it's happening all over again.
Those cards are